last question. How was week 5 or week 6? Week 5. Week 5. Week 6. How's week 6? Week 6. Week 6. You learned about dictionaries, I assume.
Week 6 was good actually. But means little hectic than week 5, but then it is good. Actually, the assignments are pretty easy actually, but then it are all jumbled up in some in one day or one time. So that is what is becoming it little messy. But then that's all actually. So not big issue.
So like I've said many times, there's 2 things. Number 1, managing the amount of work that you have. And number 2, looking at how the things you're learning integrate with each other. Every data science project involves all the topics you're learning all together. So if you could look for efficiencies between the different kinds of work that you have to do and find ways to do something quicker, something slower. It's unfortunate that JP's not here because I would tell him all the homework takes 5 minutes. But the bottom line is, finding efficiencies, making the different pieces of homework work together really helps. And again, I'm stressing this to everybody who's here, who probably are not the people I need to speak to. If you need tutoring or you want to be a tutor, please contact me, sign up for the Learning Center. There are people who have been through all of this, and there's people who want to help you, and you can get help as well. So please sign up for tutoring for the Learning Center. It's free. It's a very good resource, and it really, really helps. Right? I'm doing data camp all the time. By the way, you're free to contact me too. That's also okay. Connect with the students in 3rd semester who are graduating next week. So this is your last chance to talk to them before they go off to fantastic things. And I'm glad that week 6 is going good. That's the whole point, right? Every week building capacity, and then you're going to be amazed. By the time you get to the end of the course, when we're in week 14, you're going to look back and say, going from 0 coding to everything we've accomplished this semester, it's unbelievable what you've done. And that's true across the board, whether you're an expert in SQL queries, in Python, in R, in writing essays, or something else. Now that I'm reading the essays of the students who are graduating next week, everybody has some challenge in the program, and that challenge really varies depending on if they're challenged by a technical field, if they're challenged by writing, communication, or something else. They're all important, and they're all pieces that are being built into your career. So if you do have any feedback, please contact me. There's no such thing. There's no problem. I can keep on talking. My normal talking duration is 3 hours, but we brought Gus here to hear from him. So I wanted to introduce Gus. Gus has been an amazing backer of the program for a very long time. In fact, Gus is on the program advisory committee and one of the reasons why we have this program. So I'll let him take over.
Right on, just like that. Thanks, Sydney. I guess it's good to have the whole team in one shot because you get to address a lot of things in one place, which is great, I'm sure. So welcome everyone. So my name is Gus Miner. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at Sofvie, a big fan of the programs at Cambrian. I think we're up to 15 or so students hired from the program directly to our team. I think we're about 15 now. So and because the numbers keep growing every semester. So every semester we have some transitionary projects, and then I guess we don't necessarily always release with love. We hijack and capture and never let go. So it could be a good thing or a bad thing, but either way, we're creating opportunities. That's how we're going to look at it. We're going to maintain a positive outlook on it, because whenever there's work, there's more work. So we always talk about how every feature drives 3 more features. So it's pretty easy to embed yourself and create your own role, which is actually something that we're working on behind the scenes now. Is how do we create opportunities not only for students but opportunities for industry. Many times there's things that need to get done, and there's no role description, and there's no role that actually exists for the work that needs to get done. Yet there's a huge void in what needs to get done. So let's introduce some students to help you with that, and then boom, you've got a new role and a new capacity. So we have the opportunity to lead our way into new roles in industry. So which is a really interesting part of the day and age that we live now with technology. Is we're just basically getting warmed up and touching a service of what's possible, right? And I'm sure Sydney talks about that often. So in our session today, the last time I did one of these sessions, I did a little bit too much talking about me, and that's really boring. So I want to make sure that I don't do that again. Some of you may have had the pleasure of attending that one, and it was good. But I'm going to keep this one a little shorter because I want to have a little bit more interaction with this session. I want to hear a lot more from you and what you guys want to know about what's going on. Post education or what's going on in industry. So we'll have some time for that. But one of, actually quite a few, I ended up having an internal survey. Since I have so many alumni in my team, I said, what would you guys would like to hear about from an industry leader at these sessions so that at least I can offer as much value as I can to this group. And one thing that we do at Sofvie, which is fairly unique, I think, is every month we have a leadership topic that we cover, not only to develop our management team and to develop our leads and things like that, but to develop everyone, because all of these leadership tools lean into how you conduct yourself as a person, how you at home, at work, as you escalate through your careers, how you continue to do your homework and how you continue to do your stuff at within your courses and your programs. And one of the popular voted was the session that we did around integrity. And even though it might not be directly tech related as a tech talk, it has everything to do about what we do in technology and how we apply it. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about integrity for a little bit, if that's okay for you guys. Go ahead and use the chat a bunch. It's not Aditaya's personal log. It's for everybody to use. and we'll have a great conversation about integrity, and then we'll open it up to for conversation. Now, when we look at integrity, there is a definition of integrity, right? So Webster's defines it as a firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values. So incorruptibility, right? So meaning that it's whole and complete, right? So integrity creates a condition of workability. So without integrity, effectiveness and diminished and displaced by broken promises and lack of accountability, everything falls apart. So integrity shouldn't be an option. It should be something that's part of your code of conduct at all times. And when I speak of integrity, I'm certainly not talking from the front of I hold perfect integrity, because I'm certainly a student of integrity as much as anybody else. There's nobody perfect. But at least being aware of its concepts and how it applies is a good thing. It's a good item to put in your toolkit for at least consideration as you move forward. And it's something that we encounter a lot, especially when we transition from the educational path to the path in field. Is the conversation that you guys just had with Sydney right now. Is it okay to ask questions? Is it okay to provide feedback? This is not only okay, it is a core requirement of your existence, not only for your benefit, but for the benefit of everyone that works around you. Not only the people that you answer to, but the people that you work with. This is a required, fundamental requirement of communications. So if we tie that into the integrity talk, it's a massive component, right? You cannot fix what you don't know is broken. So if it's not available for discussion at that point, then you're going to be basically alone and broken in your own world, and nobody knows about it. So keep that communication alive. So the next piece about it is, we talked about integrity, meaning that it's whole and complete, that it's wholesome, and that it ties to morals and ethics. So it means having a point of view about what's right and doing what is right. And at the highest level, taking a stand to correct what is not right. So without integrity, nothing works. So a bicycle wheel with integrity, without integrity, if you're missing a few spokes in your bicycle wheel, in a matter of no time, the bicycle wheel is no longer going to be round, and it's just going to fall apart, and you won't be able to depend on that wheel for your bicycle to keep moving forward, right? So that's what integrity is all about. So the next thing is, when we talk about integrity, honoring our word is something that is a huge part of integrity. And it's something that's probably the most difficult thing to keep track of. So for example, if you say, I will submit my homework assignment by 1 p.m. on Friday, there's a huge part there of integrity, right? You have to say that I've committed to give my homework by 1 o'clock on Friday. It doesn't mean that it's 1:05. It doesn't mean that it's 2 o'clock. It doesn't mean that I'm going to call Sydney or Jason at 12:59 and ask for an extension. Is that you've made the commitment to submit it at 1 o'clock. And part of honoring your word is that sometimes you're no longer able to honor that commitment. And to follow through with that with integrity is to be able to say, it's Monday, 12 o'clock. I owe this to Sydney at 1 o'clock Friday. I know on Monday, 12 o'clock, I am not going to be able to submit it on time. Have a conversation with Sydney at 12 o'clock on Monday. Because now what's happening is you've got 4 days to make a plan, adjust, ask for leeway, get help. All these tools that are available when you're doing things early versus asking for an extension on your knees and on your hands and knees at 12:59 before a 1 o'clock deadline. And that piece is something that's going to hold so much value to you in your professional lives, not only now, but forever, is that the minute you know that you're going to fall out of integrity from what you said you were going to do, so following through on what you said you were going to do is everything to do about your integrity. So if I told a client that you will be live by October 1st, it's not October 2nd and it's not September 31st or September 30th. It's October 1st, and that's what we committed to, and that's what we're going to hold on to. Because as soon as that gets broken, your promise no longer holds value, right? So if you show up with your homework at 1:05 every time when it's due at 1 o'clock, when Sydney says, hey, do you promise me to do this by X time, or can you promise me to get me back this information? He's going to be like, well, I'm not going to hold my breath because that person's always late. So now your delivery and your standard has been minimized by your lack of integrity, right? So like I said, integrity is not always the fact that you always do what you said you're going to do, but at the very least, if you know, the minute that you know that you're no longer going to be able to hold on to that promise, open up about it, right? We talk about it with our teams all the time. Is, let's say we have a deadline and then we've got a week or two. If somebody doesn't speak up and says, hey, you know what, we're not going to be able to deliver on time, the leads, the supervisors, the managers, everybody that's available to help to bridge the gap is now remains powerless. You come to me at 1 minute before the deadline, I have no power to help you. You've taken away every opportunity for me to be able to counsel and guide you. And the only thing I have left to say, well, hey, it was due at 1 o'clock and it's 12:59, so this is on you now. Right? It's the only thing you have left. And if it's something that you just owe me and there's no impact, then great. Like, that's one piece. But if I'm waiting for what you owe me to deliver my piece now you've completely corrupted my ability to come through with my part of things, and that's just not fair. So that's where integrity really starts tying in, is that we, understanding the cascading effects of our actions and our promises. It really comes full circle. So, we talked about showing up late, how it shows a lack of accountability. We had this session today booked at 3:30. I'm not going to cast any stones, but if anybody showed up at 3:35 or 3:40, start there. right? Start there. We talk about this all the time, especially in the mining world, because trust me, nobody's busier than people in the mining sector. Trust me, it's just one of those things, right? But you have a meeting at 3:30, and then everybody sits around for 15 minutes to make sure that everybody slowly trickles in. No. The meeting's at 3:30. So at 3:31, the door is closed. If you're not here at 3:31, we're no longer going to have this conversation. The people that showed up deserve the time. And what that all comes to be is, it's not so much that we're trying to be difficult on you, is that time is the only non-renewable resource that we have. Once time is gone, it's gone. So it's the most precious thing that we can possibly hold on to is time. We're not on this planet forever, and we're continuously, burning time. There's nobody that just injects time into your life, right? The only time that maybe occurs is if you're on your deathbed and somehow there's a procedure that ends up extending your life. Now you've just bought time, but we don't have to wait for those times to happen to realize that time is precious, right? So if people are showing up on time, they deserve all the attention in the world. You show up 10 minutes late, hey man, you're going to get whatever's left, because you know what? You're wasting my time. You know what I mean? And it's not only a lack of integrity, it's incredibly insulting. So holding your word, showing up on time, doing what needs to get done, having the courage and humility to admit, to express your, the possibility of not being able to hold your word is a big deal. For example, I'm sure you've done it with your friends a lot of times. Be like, hey, you want to go for coffee? Yeah, man, I'll make you at Tim Hortons. I'll be there at 6:00. And you show up at 6:30. Oh, sorry, man, I was so busy. Think about your friend that just now lost another half hour of their time. And if they're going to wait a half an hour next time for you, they're probably not. They're going to show up fashionably late next time because they know that you're fashionably late. And the next thing you know, an appointment that usually happens at 6 is now 7 and it's now 8, and then it just goes nowhere. And maybe you're not even friends no more. I know that in my life, I've had people where I just no longer call on. If I really need help, I just don't call them. I know, because I know they're going to show up 4 or 5 hours or sometimes even a day late. It's like, it was yesterday, man. I needed your help yesterday. So it's a big deal. So as far as that, when it comes to your character, so there have been many stories of individuals, right? We just talked about it, that have done wrong by colleagues, peers, and their clients, customers, clients who have failed to pay their fees or service rendered, right? I'm sure we've encountered that, where it's like, hey, you owe me by this day. It's a net 30 clause, and you don't pay me on time. Coworkers who have declined to follow through on their commitments, right? And everything falls apart. Supervisors who have been duped by fellow supervisors, right? So everything's fine, just keep going, everything's good, and then there's things that are falling apart. So it's all part of your character, right? And your character is something that needs to hold true to you, and wholesome throughout your career, right? It's going to be a huge piece of your success, right? So look at your choices that you made in the past and observe how much you have or haven't lived by those principles. And don't waste time feeling regretful or guilty. You showed up late today, it's fine. I picked on you for a second, but we can move on, right? Remember that until a person can say deeply and honestly, I am what I am today because of my choices I made yesterday, that the person cannot say, I choose otherwise, right? So it all comes down to a choice. So as far as like synonyms, right? So integrity is synonymous with honesty, right? Like honesty and integrity, it comes together, right? And I know in the chat earlier with the conversations that you guys were having, like I actually put that on there. Honesty and transparency equals a win for everybody. It's a win for everybody. So the conversation that you guys had at the beginning, it was a perfect tie into what I wanted to talk about, because it's got direct correlation, right? I mean, the more honest you are with yourself and others, the more integrity you're holding in that process, as well as humility, right? And then you've got the opportunity for people to collaborate and provide a solution, so everybody wins, right? So what are your core values? Is integrity one of them? Integrity for complete honesty with yourself is a good place to start. Sometimes it's painful. It's not always easy to realize that, hey, you know what, I am a slacker, or hey, you know what, I do have problems following through. Let's start fixing that, right? And it can start very small. And love yourself. So don't beat yourself up too much. Make the decision to have that part of your core values and to stick with it. You've heard that before. My word is my bond, right? As long as you shake my hand and I give you my promise, you know that I'll come through. And as a leader, you'll notice right away when you have others working with you, or if you have, if you end up starting to climb up and you've got people working for you, once they ask for something and you say, yes, I will give you that, you don't deliver on what they asked and you said you would, your whole team no longer sees you in the same light. And you follow through like you said you would and provide it for your team, they will also no longer see you in the same light. It's a double-edged thing. One is a very exponential growth towards a positive, and one is a very exponential decline, right? So it's something to think about. So be a role model, right? When you make mistakes, apologize, especially to yourself. Forgive and forget. Start your day with the intention and end your day with gratitude. Surround yourself with others that are committed to do the same, right? So if you've got people around you that keep falling apart, you're kind of going to fall apart too. And it's just the model that you're going to be adopting, right? So keep choosing those groups that are going to work very tightly together and succeed together. And don't quit, right? Don't quit. You're not going to master integrity tomorrow. You're not going to master integrity half hour after this meeting. But being cognizant of that fact and being aware of that core value allows you, and it gives you the ability to develop that skill and develop that core value, right? You don't just wake up tomorrow and love somebody, right? You have to build up to the point where you say, hey, you know what? I love this person and I'm going to spend my more time with them. It happens over time. So any of your core values will be the same. You have to live with it for a little while before you really, you truly become a master of it. And one example that I can hold of it right now of how it can really pay. So I can't say any words, but I'm currently on I'm working on a project right now, which represents about $6 million, right? So of course I'm in competition for this $6 million, right? I was the only one that showed up 3 minutes early for the meeting. I was the only one that showed my camera for the conversation with the person. And I was the only one to ask transparent questions and get those answers. So how do you think that felt from a stakeholder standpoint of the person that's going to be spending the $6 million, who they would like to do business with more, right? Not the person that just hid behind their avatar, and certainly not the person that showed up 10 minutes late for their meeting, right? So integrity plays a big role, and it could be a make or break in your career. So integrity, so speaking consistently in all situations, keeping our word when possible, saying when we won't be able to keep it, and dealing with the consequences of that. It could be positive, it could be negative, but there's going to be a consequence when you say, I can't hold my word, right? And like we talked about, if we say we can't hold our word at 12:59, the consequences would be much greater than if we said we can't hold our word 5 days before, right? So it makes us whole, complete, and powerful. So without preaching too much longer, that's what I had to present today for integrity. And it ties a lot into data security. It ties a lot into data accountability. When we provide a report, if we omit some data for the sake of having a report run faster, you're not giving factual information. So now that report's falling out of integrity along with your services and your work, right? So we had that conversation a lot about how we can manipulate information too easily in technology and on data. All you have to do is omit one column, or all you have to do is just omit one value, and now the report falls out of integrity and you're potentially lying to the stakeholders that are depending on that report, right? So you can see how integrity ties into how people see you. Integrity ties in and how people will treat you. Integrity ties into people that will follow you. And it ties into the work that you'll be assigned and how everything transpires around you in your life, right? I'm sure if you're trying to find a spouse and you're always late at your dates, there's a good chance they will not be your spouse. Right? So it really comes down to that fundamental thing, right? It is what it is. If you show up late for the bus is gone. Right? Is there anything that you guys want to share? Anything that you want to open up or have an open, frank conversation about around that topic? I'm sure it was a little bit of a loaded subject. I don't know if you were expecting that kind of delivery, but it was voted as a popular subject on at Sofvie, so we passed it on.
I think there's an element of experience to it, because you mentioned you're working on a contract worth $6 million. I mean, for a lot of folks, I mean, they might get told off by the mum and dad or the teacher, but they never dealt with a boss who says you lost that $6 million before and seen the consequence, you know. So I'm not saying everyone needs to lose $6 million contract to experience it, but I suppose it's one of those, you kind of get burned once or twice and you feel like I need to be a lot more transparent in how I communicate, you know, even if it wasn't anything intentional, you kind of gain that awareness through experience. Just need to be crystal clear on these things, you know, or be on time. And
exactly. It's a tough pill to swallow to say that you missed out on an opportunity because you were 3 minutes late.
Yes. Well, I haven't experienced that recently, but that probably means that when I was a little bit younger that I did. So I kind of learned these little instincts along the way, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
go ahead, Pat.
Be honest. So if you feel you're not going to make a commitment, get ahead of it sooner than later. Because if you try to fix the problem just on your own, you don't understand the roadblocks that can be removed ahead of you if the right people get involved at the right times.
Exactly. You only know what you know, right? So you might feel stuck and you can't deliver, but if you didn't tell anybody, you don't know the tools they have. You don't know the tools they have. You know what you have in your disposal. You don't know the tools they have. So all of a sudden you express it to someone else. They've got a whole other world of tools that you never knew, and now you've got a solution, right? Idris, you got a question?
Okay. Not really a question. It's just, first of all, an appreciation and also a comments, with regards to the topic of integrity. This is something that one really does not learn in a classroom, and it permeates all aspects of our lives, our individual lives as well as our professional lives. So, I've had to work with teams whereby the moment your word doesn't become your bond, you tend to lose the trust of your superiors, of your subordinates, so it's a very critical element, and I'm glad that it's a subject of conversation. So I just wanted to, express my appreciation and gratitude for bringing up this topic. Thank you.
Very good, Idris. Thank you. Now we've got another one in the chat here as well. If there's a situation that I have lied to a customer to protect the employer or company, what should be done? Should I lie, or should I find a solution to de-escalate the situation despite knowing the adverse consequences? So if there's a situation I have to lie to a customer to protect the employer. Well, I mean, this one, I know it was a direct message, but I think it's a good message to discuss here real quickly. If you're in a situation where you're forced to fall out of integrity, are you willing to deal with the consequences? And that's the first question you got to ask yourself, is like, okay, I'm forced to lie to help someone else, but where does that leave me? And what can it do long term, right? So if your value is to maintain integrity, then the lie is not even an option. Then at that point, it's ask for an extension. Ask for the opportunity to reach out to someone else to find a different solution in order to find your way through, right? If you're finding your way through is to avoid, and I find that lying is just a way to avoid, right? You're just delaying the consequence is what a lie. If you're okay with delaying it temporarily and possibly ending your career, possibly, because now, the world is small, right? So if you want to be known as a liar, then cool. If you can go to bed and be happy with lying, then that's a decision you make. But at the same point, if that's not something that you're willing to live with, and you can't go to bed in the morning or look yourself in the mirror because you're now exposed, it could be a small lie, but it doesn't matter. It's still a lie. You're still, stepping aside from your core values of integrity. I would sooner ask for the opportunity to come back with a different solution, or ask for the opportunity to reevaluate what's asked before I submit myself to lying. Right? Adi, you got something to add there?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to say that again, like as Idris kind of covered before, it's a great topic to cover in this talk, and I don't want to generalize it to all of the people from my culture, but I guess in my experience from back in India, I used to have conversations of people where, for example, and I'm sure that many people have such friends where I'm like, okay, so let's meet at 8:30. That's what's been decided. Like there was a group of 5 people in my undergrad college, and we were like, okay, let's meet at 5:30, for example. And then just the 2 of us were there at 5:30, talking to each other, catching up on all our lives in the meanwhile. And when it's 6 o'clock, the other 3 guys showed up, and then they're like, oh, we decided to meet at 5:30. Why did you show up at 5:30? And I know that does happen in many friends groups. I know it's just not me that's been experiencing that with these unique 3 friends in the entire country of 1.4 billion people. So I'm just saying that is like, especially as an international student, if you move to a new country, then that is something you have to shed off in terms of finding the right employers, and again, if there are people who are just okay with you doing whatever you want to and not properly following up, then you probably don't want to work for them, because they probably don't value you anyway, or they don't really care about what you bring to the table. So if you want to work for a good employer like Sofvie, for example, then you would want to follow up on such commitments and stay true to them, unless there's an absolute emergency. No one's a monster. But even in that case, and again, as Gus also mentioned with the example of assignment deadlines, let us know 4 days in advance that, okay, if there's a situation arising, if it's an emergency, again, if it's like, immediately right now I am being driven to the hospital or anything, that's fine, everybody will understand. But otherwise, just make sure to let everybody know, whoever is concerned, about when you can't live up to your word, so on and so forth. And I think that's a very important thing. And as Idris mentioned, there is usually not a single class which is going to teach us anything close to what's being told today.
Oh, very good. No, thanks for sharing that, Ataya. And you opened up a very interesting can of worms there, so to speak, when it comes to culture, right? So at Sofvie, I think I've got people from all over the world working for me, from anywhere from Brazil to India, Pakistan, Australia, all over the place. And here's something that I noticed, and I want to pass this message along so that it's very, very clear, because this will probably be one of the biggest learnings with this as well, is when you go from one culture to the next, one country to the next, one employer to the next, every time you start a new course or new job, anywhere where you're new and you're unfamiliar, you will be more tempted to bail, to give up on your integrity than ever before. Why? We are geared and we are designed to please. We want to succeed, and we want people that we work for or with to succeed as well. So the first thing that's going to come through our minds when a challenge comes our way, or whenever a question comes our way, or when an assignment is given to us, yes, no problem. Right? I'm sure it resonates a little bit. The first thing you will say is yes, no problem. Why? Because you want to please. Where things fall apart, and it will fall apart, is when you say yes and you already know that you will not be able to deliver. Okay, I've had this happen many times where I will look at somebody right in the eye and I will say, like, are you sure you can give me this by tomorrow? Yes, no problem. Tomorrow comes and it's not there. Why? There was a fear of being open and transparent and honest. I don't want to hear what I want to hear. I want to hear, is it possible, yes or no? If I asked it for tomorrow, it might just be a very arbitrary thing about, hey, it'd be cool to have it by tomorrow. If you tell me, hey, listen, I would like to give it to you for tomorrow, it's not a no. I would like to give it to you for tomorrow. However, for the sake of quality and consistency, it's going to take me 3 days. There's a good chance I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'll just readjust my schedule for the 3 days. I just asked tomorrow because it was a very arbitrary demand. It didn't mean that I was holding to it. Or maybe it is. Maybe it is a very specific demand and maybe it's not possible. But at least by knowing right away, I am empowered to communicate to my stakeholders that it's not possible for tomorrow. If you wait until the last minute, now you look like a fool because you've broken, you've come without integrity. And I have no tools left to communicate to my stakeholders about why we're late. You see how that goes? It just cascades. So I found that with different cultures. I'm not going to pick on one in particular because it seems to be a human behavior. It's not a cultural thing. But every time we start a new position, a new role, a new job, a new assignment, a new team, a new program, the first thing we want to do is please. And sometimes it will make us bail on their integrity faster than we can even process it. So just keep that in mind that whenever there's a request, it's only a request. Like, I mean, I see this all the time with RFPs. I want to be able to say yes to the whole RFP. But the thing is they're not even asking for all those to be yeses. They just want to see what you can offer. So wherever it's a no, you say no. Whenever it's a yes, it's a yes. And at least you know exactly where you stand from. And then when it's time to deliver, you don't look like a fool, and you don't come across as a liar, right? So very good point there. Sydney, you got your hand up as well.
Hello. So Gus, I think you articulated my homework policy pretty much exactly. My homework policy is very clear. In fact, it's mandatory that you read the policy before you take one of my courses. Why? Because homework deadlines are not flexible. You must hand in your homework on time. You have weeks to work towards it. It's your job as a graduate student to make that happen. And you could decide, you could be strategic about what you prioritize. That means that you have the option to let me know 2 weeks in advance. I'm willing to work with you. The day after it's due, the day it's due, or at midnight, I'm not going to talk. And now, if you're taking my class right now in ANA 1003, I stop grading things for that night at 10 o'clock or whatever. I go to bed. You're free to submit until midnight. That's fine. You can't submit the next day. Now, I want to talk about something else on the same line. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, what is the reason why you're in this program? What are you learning? You're learning how to advise other people to make decisions and to tell them the best thing to do. And they have to believe you that you're being honest with what you can do. And if you came to me and said, I can't do my homework for whatever reason, it's 2% of your grade. It's okay to get a 0. You'll still end up with a 94 in the course. It's not a big deal. But what is a huge deal that many students don't realize is that if you cheat on one of your assignments, for example, in R or Python, if you copy somebody else's code, if you don't actually understand the concepts and do your own work, that's the absolute worst thing. Why? Not only because it means that you're not going to be able to advise people because you don't understand the concepts, but it ultimately means that you can't do the job that you're here to learn. That's what it comes down to, because nobody's going to believe that you have the right analysis if you're just copying other people's work. If you get caught cheating in the course, then you get a 0 on that assignment. If it happens twice, you fail the course. And if it happens 3 times, not only do you get kicked out of this college, you can't apply to another college or university in Canada for 2 years. So it's extremely serious. And the reason why we make you take an academic integrity certificate, why we are so, pressing on this point, is because we expect that when you finish the program, you can do all the things that we said in the courses that you can do, and you can apply those skills to a job. And if you can't do it, the appropriate time to tell me about it is now. Send me an email. I'm happy to work with you. I can explain any concept that you want to know. I could connect you with tutoring. But you have to make that decision proactively instead of waiting for catastrophe. Otherwise, it's a cascade failure that you can't recover from.
Very good. Oh, thanks, Sydney. I mean, it's a tough lesson to learn. I mean, I've been in business since I'm 16 years old, And I had to learn that lesson very, very quick, right? You show up to a client's door or you show up to anybody and you have to deliver what you promised. There's a lot of pressure. And the pressure that we put on ourselves is 99% of the time in our control. It's in our control. If I'm given 5 days to do work and I do it on day one and I can just check on it for 4 days and give it in on time, it's way less pressure than waiting until Friday at 11 o'clock to deliver for Friday at 1 o'clock. You are in total control in how much pressure a program applies on you or how much pressure you apply on yourself. You're in total control. It's the one thing that you can control 100% is how you act, how you make decisions, and how you feel about certain things, right? It's completely under your control, right? So it's, that's why I thought it was a great topic to cover in our tech talk. If you think about it, so I have these conversations all the time, and in mining it happens all the time. You have steps 1 through 10. Okay, so let's listen to it as an example. You have steps 1 through 10 to successfully deliver this service, product, whatever the case may be, right? There's a common misconception that you can take out step number 3 and take out step number 7 and still get to step number 10. So in a programming context, how well would your code execute if you omit 2 lines out of your 10-step process? It wouldn't. It gets to line 2 and line 3 is missing, it fails and your code no longer renders, right? However, in life, we are often asked to skip steps and still deliver the result of 10, right? And I always say, like, listen, like, you guys think about technology, you guys think about automation, you guys think about scheduling, you guys think about, ordering process, whatever the case it is. Every process has step 1 all the way to step X. You cannot omit steps. You cannot do it. It falls out of integrity. If you got the if that, if this, then this, else that, well, then as soon as the then no longer exists, else kicks in, you're done, right? So it really is important in the boardroom. It's important in mission statements. It's important in commitments. It's important everywhere that integrity holds true, right? That you maintain integrity in your code, maintain integrity in your data structure, maintain integrity in your well-being, maintain integrity in how you deliver your products and services, right? I mean, think about even your personality. If you show up one day and you're all smiles, the next day you're a frown, the next day you're jumping all over the place, the day after that you're smiles again, middle of the day you transition and you go into fight mode. I mean, how hard is it to be your friend? You never know what to expect, right? So it's just one of those things, right? The consistency and integrity will go a long way. Anything else that anybody wanted to add? Jason? I see quite a few faces I'm familiar with. Sonam, I'm familiar with a few faces here, different students we've interacted through the year already. So it's nice.
Nothing. So if we, let's say I have a commitment to a client and it's by Friday, I know I can do that within Monday, Tuesday. I hold on to my work and stay there until Friday. Is that good integrity, or I just, whenever I finish, I deliver it?
Well, that all depends on the policy, right? So when everybody went to remote work, and I mean, for us in tech, I mean, it's not even called remote work. It's just work. I mean, I've got people all over the world. It just is what it is, right? So when managers asked me, well, how can you commit to paying them if they're not at work? I said, if you have 5 days available of labor and you only gave them 2 days worth of work, that is on you. If they're able to do all the work that you assign them in 2 days and they got 3 days off as a bonus, well, then good for them. So it is up to you as a manager or supervisor to be able to assign the appropriate amount of work to justify the 8 hours per day in order for you to feel good at the end of the day paying them, right? I mean, it's just management. So the same thing goes around, is that if you say, hey, listen, like I'm committed to receiving a paycheck for 5 days of work, what you've assigned me is only going to take me 2. It's a good thing to just open up and say, listen, this seemed to be a big project. After some more digging into it, I can accomplish it in 2. Is there anything else that you would like me to do? Or are you satisfied with just with this? And then I'll take the next 3 days off. Having that conversation and just, not being in a room for the sake of being there to earn your wage has a lot to do with integrity as well. And it's incredibly boring. Who wants to do that? Who wants to sit there and do nothing for 3 days? It's incredibly taxing on the body to just be, there's only so much YouTubing you can do, I'm sure. So I don't know if that answered your question, Josmar, but is it around those lines? Around like you're done early and what do you do?
Yeah. I also find that when you do have to go into work, like you're working in person and they don't have enough for you to do, you just end up like doing busy work, which is really just a waste of your time and the company's money anyway. So you might as well just take that time if the company's willing to have you do that.
Yeah, and then sometimes you're on standby, right? So what I normally ask for my personnel is continuous improvement and continuous development is part of your daily duties. So if you find yourselves in a situation, I had that conversation actually today. Somebody asked me, hey, I got a little bit of a light load this week. What do I do? Cool. What do you want to learn? What would you like to learn that you never have time to learn? That is now your assignment, right? So continuous improvement and self-development is always the tool that you can lean on. You will never lose by investing in yourself. Right? And if your employer is willing to pay for you to invest into yourself and it's a co-investment, then fantastic, right? So if you're at work and it's a very light load and you say, you know what, I'll stay here because if it does get busy, I'm available. However, in the meantime, I'm going to learn X, right? So you can be, even if it's something as simple as working in a department store, you say, I've never worked in this department before. So while this department is quiet, I'm going to go work in the other one so I can learn how things happen on that side and come back. Huge value add to you because now you're learning more processes and procedures, and a huge value to your employer because now if ever there's a shortage on the department, hey, they got someone else that understands what goes on there, right?
Which is way better than sweeping the same room 3 times in a row so that you look like you're busy.
It's a lot better than pretending that you're busy, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that's a insert the plug for Data Camp. We use Data Camp as well at Sofvie, as well as Udemy. And I think we've assigned a total of 300 plus certificates in 2021 so far, in both capacities, right? So even though we had tight deliverables, tight deadlines, we've met all of those and still found ways to issue 300 plus certificates. That was something that I analyzed last week, and I was super proud of it. It just adds to the fact that the adage of if you overtrain somebody, they will possibly leave, but if you undertrain somebody and they stay, what is the consequence of that, right? I would rather have people that are very, very skilled and move on to do bigger and better things than to have somebody that's underskilled and yeah, Jasmine has done a lot of. Is there another Jasmine, or is it a Jasmine that works for Sofvie at
That's the one that works for Sofvie. Every time I tell them to do Data Camp, I'm like, look at her LinkedIn posts. She's done every course possible.
She hammers Data Camp, hammers it on company time, which is great. Because at the end of the day, it ties into what I'm asking her to do. Right now, she's performing at a totally different level. Jasmine's been a rock star with our group. What else we got here? What is your take on 4 days as working days instead of 5? Will it affect the organization's productivity? The work week, I mean, for me, it's magical. I always like to keep Fridays as a discretionary day. So in our sprint planning, we typically put Fridays as a professional development day. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't come to work or you don't do your work. but it's kind of like your freebie day to work on something that you wanted to research and you never get a chance to on Monday to Thursday. I don't know about eliminating a day. I know for me, whenever I have a long weekend like we just had for Thanksgiving, I feel like I've been away from work forever. And the way that I've always seen it is that if your requirement is less days of work, because of how stressful it is and how intense it is, there's a possibility that it might not be the right place to work for you. I look forward to waking up every day and doing work. And it's not because I'm a workaholic, because I truly, really love what I do every single day. And we talk about it in our teams as well. And sometimes I'll say, okay, team, I'm giving you guys a paid day off. And I mean, we're talking, $15,000 for a day to get everybody to go off for the day. And most of the time they stick around and they work anyways. They just love what they're doing, right? So I think that decision of 4 days versus 5 or 5 versus 7. I mean, I've done many years of 7 days on, 7 days on, and I'm sure Sydney and Jason would probably have had those experiences as well, where it's just Monday to Sunday. It's every day's a Monday. You just keep working, right? So I think it's all a matter of perspective and how you really enjoy what you do and what your personal balance is for work life and time spent with family. One thing that I do say a lot, however, is if the cutoff time is 4:00, hold that to integrity. Shut that thing down at 4:00 and spend that time with your family. That will make a big difference in how your family holds together. And if you start your workday at 7, start your workday at 7. Take that time to rest and recover. The schedule is there for a reason. Right? The schedule is there for a reason. So balance around it. One exercise that I can leave with you with, and it's a very, very good exercise in not only in integrity, but also in just overall time management, is I have everybody that comes into Sofvie, I ask them to design their perfect week. So if you had a perfect week that you could rinse and repeat and cycle over and over again, what does that week look like? And that gives you an indication of how much time you have left to add more. Because anytime you're adding things in your week, a lot of times something else has to leave, unless you just do nothing all day and you're just going to fill in your time with other things. So by designing your perfect week, you take your calendar Monday to Sunday, right? And you write down all of your class times, you write down all of your meeting times, you write down all of your homework time, all of your part-time job, part-time work time, all that stuff. You write it all in there, even your suppers with your family, your dinners with your friends, your coffee dates. You have a coffee date every Friday with Adataya. You put it in there, right? You put all those things in there. And what it does is it truly shows you how much time there actually is left, or it shows you how many activities you repeat every single day that could possibly be joined all in one day, and then you free up that time for the rest of the week. You really get to be a master of how you spend your time, right? And once you have that really lined out, it's really easy to hold integrity. We talk about it with our sprints. If there's a task coming in, the sprint's already been committed, there's another task that has to come out. There's no other way. You're just not going to throw a task on top of it and somehow magically make the time appear. There's only 8 hours in a day. You're not going to magically invent another 8 hours on top of that. So the same thing occurs with your personal schedule. If you've got an employer that asks you to work an extra day, you take a look at it. You're like, oh my God, if I move this around, maybe I could fit that extra day. Maybe I can't. But it's a really good indicator of what you're committed to and where you have to go and break your promises to be able to adjust to take on a new promise, right? So it all ties into integrity. Right on. On that note, we've got 3 minutes left together. Sydney, Jason, Adataya, if anybody wants to add anything for the last 3 minutes, and we'll be able to hold our meeting to integrity at 4:30 and send everybody off home eating their favorite meal, or maybe just a quick bite.
We're expecting that this week. Thank you for coming. We expect that this weekend all the homework's going to be handed in on time.
Yeah, or you're going to get a bunch of phone calls saying they can't do it.
That's also possible.
Yeah, that's possible.
So it just wants to know, what's the 3-minute version of what Sofvie is, what it does?
So Sofvie, we enable organizations to take their health and safety framework and put it to action. A lot of times it sits in a binder on a shelf somewhere and it falls out of integrity. Our system helps you maintain integrity with your health and safety system, as well as holding people accountable for what's so, right? So that's what Sofvie does. And the core mission is to make sure that everybody goes home safely every day. Every day. Not this day because I got lucky and tomorrow because I did things right. We're going to do things right every single day and document it and go home safely to our families every single day. That's what Sofvie's all about. There's been a lot of practice there for the 1 minute pitch. So thanks for putting me on the spot there, Sydney.
Well, that's okay. Anybody else? Final thoughts? All right. Well, Kyle, thank you very much for coming, guys. I think this is a really fantastic talk. And I think it's really important. Ultimately, when you're responsible and you have to make decisions, it's really important to be accountable for them. The program is designed around this idea because every assignment is relatively small. There are many of them, and there's no high stakes anything. There's many, many chances to get things on time, to improve, to build a culture of responsibility that you're able to look at when your assignments roll out and set deadlines as you want. And that's the part that we're leaving to you. You have to balance many things at the same time, and that's life. And we hope that you manage to do that as part of the thing. Gus put his email address in. And thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, thanks all for your time. Thanks for having me. Any questions, shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer, or find me on LinkedIn and we can have some dates on there.
Sure.
Right on. Have a
Awesome.
good weekend,
Thank
everyone.
you, guys.
Thanks.
So
Thank you.
next week, what are we talking about? We're all just going to stare at each other quietly for an hour? I can do that. I do it up every day.
I thought you were going to come up with the answer. I didn't think you were going to ask us. Because you know what I'll say, right?
What are you going to say? Minimal homework?
No, chicken and monster trucks, and you
Chicken
never
and
talk
monster
about
truck.
it.
So this is your last Friday while you're still a student here. I figured that because you're graduating, you probably had some high priority topic that you'd like us to talk about.
Well, if I'm no longer attending the meeting, you can safely talk about your love for monster trucks then, because I'm not going to be here.
Oh, you're not next Friday?
Oh yeah, I can come. Yeah. Sure.
It's your literally last day of school. I was planning on baking a cupcake to celebrate. Just one, and we could eat it on Zoom.
You can eat in front of the camera.
Now, I want you to ask yourself something. If you're in third semester and I sent you an email saying, send me pictures and videos so we can make a graduation video, and you haven't yet, which I know that you haven't, maybe today's the day to open that email, click on the link, and send something. You probably feel terrible about it. Right?
Okay, I'll do something.
There you go. Send it from your phone, send it from the computer. Don't make me guilt trip you into it. You still haven't answered the question. What's next week going to be about?
Put me on the spot here. Someone else bail me out, please. So numb.
We have many topics we can talk about. It's really up to you. Do you want to do an example on machine learning?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. We're going to do no-code machine learning, and we're going to build an actual practice example. We're going to do it no code. It's super easy. And then we'll talk about how some of those concepts factor into Python and other things that we're going to learn. You could do machine learning, which is a form of artificial intelligence, in both Python and R. The packages are very large and complicated. We're going to do a very simple no-code version. And we're going to put together some examples of teaching the computer how to recognize a model. If you're in ANA 1003, we did one of those today. But we're going to do something not only more complicated, but it's going to have graphical interface that you can feed information into it and make some things happen. So I'll see you next week for that. We're going to work on something absolutely amazing. You're going to be shocked, and something to show your mother that you're actually learning something in the program. It has that advantage, added win-win. Have a fantastic weekend. Go outside, do some homework. See you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right, see ya.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Dhanyavad.
Bye, Sydney. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you. So, what do you think, Alkashay?
Thank you for sparing out some time. Actually, I have a concern. We received a mail today that soon in January we will be having offline classes. So